When I published the first video on this channel a little over a year ago, my Australian Swagman themed survival game looked like this, and now it looks like this. This video is going to quickly recap the journey from a basic prototype to what became Once Upon a Swagman, a game that is still reasonably early on in its development, but has come far enough now that I am proud of what I have and confident it will be the first substantial game that I actually publish. So let's rewind back to the beginning and get a sense of how things have changed month by month. For context, I was going into this project as a software developer with around 15 years of professional experience, primarily building front-end and mobile applications. Throughout my career, I've often dabbled in making games, but mostly small arcade type of games, and although I did make a few of these games available, I've never really tried to properly publish a game. Certainly, I've never tried building anything near the size of this game. A common mistake, perhaps, but it was the game I wanted to build. For the most part, I've been able to reasonably consistently work on this game somewhere in the realm of 8 to 15 hours a week, depending on the time and motivation I had available. There was a period of around 3 months though, where, like so many other game projects, it seemed the game was fated to join the growing pile of unfinished projects. After quite a lot of progress, I hit a bit of a wall, and the game sat dormant and unchanged for months. I'm a big believer in the idea that one of the biggest factors getting in the way of success is just not finishing things. Of course, just finishing something is no guarantee of success, but I feel confident in saying at least that generally good things will come from a habit of finishing things you start, whatever it is. So as I was working on this game, I was determined to just finish it, no matter what. But it's much easier to commit to finishing something when you're motivated. Actually following through still seems to be so hard, even if you're convinced of some positive outcome if all you do is just finish things. And although I wasn't feeling too down on myself about it, it was looking like I wasn't going to finish the project. I still haven't finished it yet, so I'm not going to pat myself on the back too early, but I did manage to turn things around. I've had a lot of consistent momentum and have been dedicating even more time to the project. I've dealt with most of the potential showstoppers and challenging aspects of building the game already, and now it's mostly a matter of adding in additional content and simpler systems. I'm confident I will finish this now, at least in some capacity. Now, rather than hinging on my own drive and motivation, how far I take this project is going to depend on how playtesting goes and whether I can make this into something that resonates with a lot of people. But in any case, even if the idea is just fundamentally a bit of a flop and I don't want to invest another year of time into creating content for a game nobody is really interested in, I am still confident I will put at least a simple, polished version of the game out there into the world. And in the worst case scenario, I'm building up a great base of reusable systems and workflows that will make my next project a whole lot easier. So how did I navigate getting past falling into that chasm of unfinished projects when it looked so likely that that was where things were heading? I don't think I have any particularly universal or uplifting advice to give here, but I can at least describe what getting through this slump looked like for me. I realized mostly what was stopping me from working on the game was the water. I initially started out developing this game with the idea that I would make a basic version of the systems work first, and I would make them nicer later. But I got to this point and it was all just very meh. The water especially was supposed to be this core focal point of the game, and in my opinion, the water would perhaps be barely passable for a game where the shore wouldn't be such a strong focal point. And there wasn't really a path for incrementally improving the water that I had. Many systems would rely on how it worked, and if I wanted to change the water significantly, I would need to basically just change the approach I was using entirely. And the way that I did have the water designed made it very difficult to integrate with other things in the game. It wasn't just the water though. I had a few things in the game like spearfishing, digging for water, sleeping, that were all just kind of okay and passable, and I was on the trajectory of just adding more and more features that were just passable at best. But none of them felt really fun to use. Really, the only feature I thought was actually pretty cool was the fire mechanic. So instead of continuing on this path, I decided to greatly narrow what I was focusing on. Instead of trying to build a lot of passable at best features, I would instead focus on making the ocean the hero of the game and make everything related to that aspect much more deep. I decided to treat what I had so far as a prototype, start fresh, and focus on getting the terrain and ocean system right from the beginning. And I wasn't going to continue past that until I had water in the game that I actually liked. Not just visually, but also something that I know could work with all the systems I wanted to build around the water. So I spent a long time working on the ocean. I actually have a video dedicated to that if you are interested in checking it out in more depth. But like a riptide taking an unsuspecting victim halfway to New Zealand, everything started flowing quickly once I had this new basis of quality down. Every feature I added back into the game, I made sure to make it feel good, not just good enough. I think it's easy to get lost in the idea as a developer of just making a feature work, and you get heavily biased by the fact that you just want to be done working on something. But I find it useful to try to reframe my thinking and step into the shoes of someone actually playing the game, at least as much as I can, and consider whether some experience feels good or not. I think moving items is a good example of this. The initial implementation of this is entirely functional. You can move an item from somewhere to somewhere else, but it didn't feel good. So I added some extra juice. Items sort of appear to levitate a bit when you pick them up and fall when you drop them. And there is some elasticity to the movement. They will sort of bounce around if you move the mouse around, and you can even sort of fling and throw items if you want. All of this doesn't add much functionality wise, but it makes it feel a whole lot better. As I add more and more of these higher quality features that actually feel nice, it feels motivating to see a product evolving that overall feels nice to use. And it helps keep me on track by making it more obvious if new features I'm adding aren't quite living up to that standard. Like right now, I'm working on the UI for the game, which is probably my least favorite thing to do. I've added some nice enough features and some placeholder art, but I know the UI isn't quite there yet in terms of quality, and I've been spending a lot of time improving it. At the beginning of this project, I would have been more of the mindset that it doesn't really matter so much as long as it is functional, it can just be improved later. But now I'm more of the mindset that, especially since I'm past the prototyping stage, that everything should be made to be good right away. Maybe not perfect, but it should at least be good. So that's the story of Once Upon a Swagman so far. Of course, if this game looks interesting to you, a wishlist or like or subscribe would mean a great deal to me. And if you have your own stories about the struggles of actually finishing projects, how you've gotten through it or how you didn't, feel free to share your thoughts in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I hope to see you again next time.